In this part here lives around 260 million people. The majority of them are born with a love for martial arts and breaking other people's bones. Coming to you from a history of uncountable wars, conquests, and rebellions, we bring you Taksin the Great, the unifier of Siam and a guy who turned from a beloved king into a religious tyrant. Taksin was born into a Thai Chinese family, but was adopted into a noble one. At this point, we have to stop and briefly explain the Thai title system, and we'll get back to Taksin in just a second. The Thai have an unnecessary system of not using your real name, but calling you by your title. So once you get a promotion, you change your name. Basically, imagine a prime minister whose name is prime minister. To avoid the confusion, we'll just call Taksin Taksin all the way. So back to the story. The young Taksin studied to be a Buddhist monk and learned martial arts. He quickly rose through the government ranks and soon became a governor. Back then, Thailand was Siam, Myanmar was Burma, and tanks were horses. If you are at all familiar with Thai history, you know that Siam and Burma really didn't like each other. Like, really didn't like each other. There's more chance of Che making out with Uncle Sam than these two getting along. One day Burma was on the attack, so they decided to capture and destroy the Thai capital. Taksin spent a full year defending the besieged city before he finally managed to break through the Burmese with just 500 men and flee before they stormed the gates. The Burmese stole valuables, killed the king as well as the ruling class, and then left to face invading China in the north with around 5,000 soldiers left behind. So Taksin assembled an army of around the same amount of people and taught them to forget about a spear and shield. Instead, they would run into battle with machetes in both hands, screaming like madmen. Their appearance would pretty much win the battle before it even started. Taksin overtook the destroyed city and became the king. The death of the former king meant that Siam was divided into 5 independent states. The following 3 years, Taksin spent unifying Siam by defeating and killing the rulers of those states. He achieved this with the help of his best friend, Phraya Chakri. The Burmese king sent his army repeatedly into Siam and was not discouraged by the continued losses and the threat from the Chinese. 2 years of war ended with Taksin winning all his battles and the new king of Burma pulling back his forces. Taksin had great plans on improving life in Siam. However, his other ideas were always coming second to the war, which was really his deal. Both Taksin and Phraya Chakri conquered lands in Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. According to Taksin, the reason for this was because they were traditional Thai dominions, which was completely not true. The whole kicking ass at the war thing took its toll. Taksin became mentally troubled. He devoted himself to religion and was fasting and praying all the time. He thought about how amazing he was at being king and decided that screw it, he was God now. His blood was white, he could control the weather, and the monks had to worship him if they didn't want to die. Taksin imprisoned and tortured his wife as well as his sons, making them confess crimes they didn't commit. Eventually, enough was enough. His closest friend and ally Phraya Chakri organized a coup and the king was sentenced to death. However, royal blood was not to be spilt on the floor. Instead, they chose a much more subtle way of doing it. They put Taksin in a velvet bag and beat him to death with sticks. Taksin the Great died that day. Or according to a legend, he put in someone else in the bag and went to live in the mountains for the rest of his life. Either way, the blood in the bag was not white. Be sure to like and share the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next week!